Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today, political analyst Bill Phillips on the Republican side and Larry Woods on the Democratic side. Gentlemen, we talked about the cost of these races. Bill, what's it going to cost to win this primary, both on the Democratic and the Republican side? We're talking millions of dollars.
You know, the stakes have just skyrocketed so much, it's hard to even have a legitimate guess these days, particularly when you have the wealthy beginning to put their own money in, which adds to the coffers.
Do you have to be wealthy these days to be able to run in most cases?
That is the impression that a whole lot of people have, and sometimes impressions become truth.
I think it's going to take $20 to $30 million.
Yeah.
And that's to do both the primary and the
that's just the primary.
Just the primary. So then you go beyond that. So that one. We have two candidates we talked about on the Republican side who appear to be candidates: Diane Black from the 6th District in Congress here in Tennessee, and Beth Harwell, representative here in Nashville, also Speaker of the House. Both keep saying, I'm going to be in the race, and they certainly act like that, but they don't quite get around to announcing. Does that mean anything? Is it just logistics of getting things together, Larry? What is it?
Well, part of it's always logistics. If you're going to run, when's the best time to start? You've got to look at the calendar about when's your first financial disclosure due. It's always good to wait until the day after, and that gives you a longer fundraising period. You've got to look at what's the media cycle. Summer's a slow news cycle usually, which is why so many announce in the summer. And you've got to look at, you know, how many people can I get lined up to endorse me or be with me or talk it up at least. So the logistics are always very complex and difficult. And you want to see who else is running. You know, if I'm going to be the only Shelby County candidate, for example, if 3 other Shelby County people jump in, I might change my mind and decide not to run.
Bill, Diane Black, it appeared, because she is now the chairman of the Budget Committee in the House, was looking to sort of use that, particularly if Congress was passing health care and tax reform and the budget, that she could come out from a position of strength and say, look what I've done in Washington, this is what I can do in Tennessee. It's not working out that way in Washington. Is that slowing down her process up there of jumping into the race?
They're talking about that because she's chairman, she's waiting to make her decision and make the announcement, is beginning to lose some of its validity because the Budget Committee is not able to get anything done in Washington right now because of all these distractions.
So does she need a plan B to get started, at least a platform in which to jump off from there?
I think she needs a plan B, and I've got the feeling that she has it, and I will be surprised if she doesn't jump in.
Yes, I agree. Notice the business model for winning governors in our recent history has been the business candidate that Bill was describing earlier. Haslam ran as, I'm a businessman and I've done well. Bredesen ran as, I'm a businessman who's done well. It's clearly Carl Dean's focus as in his run for governor, and as Bill pointed out, he's doing better than everybody expected, I think. So I think, you know, saying I've been effective in Congress, I'm not sure that's a great strategy for Tennessee.
Getting back to the Carl Dean race, there used to be that there was a hex on mayors. They couldn't run from being mayor to being governor, and that was true for Mayor Fulton, for several others, Ojani and Chattanooga and places like that. But now the last 2 governors have been former mayors, but you both seem to be saying that the business representation they brought, their business leadership, was more important perhaps to voters than being a former mayor, or if being a former mayor sort of put enough holy water on it that it's okay, they can be a successful candidate to run statewide.
Well, I think it's changed some in modern times, but notice you're right. Both Bredesen and Haslam emphasized I've been a successful businessman. The emphasis wasn't I've been a big city mayor. Plus what's changed is Bredesen brought us the Titans. I made a lot of speeches for Bredesen, and every time I was having trouble or I thought I was in trouble, I'd smile at the audience and say, and don't forget Phil Bredesen brought the Tennessee Titans here.
Well, also remember that Phil Bredesen ran at a time when TennCare was out of control for health care, and he himself was a health care millionaire, and people thought he had the ability to do that where perhaps nobody else in the candidates on either side had any chance to be able to do that.
Well, and Bredesen and Haslam both have the business background. Carl Dean doesn't have a direct business background, but his reputation of being business friendly and bringing business to town, or to Tennessee in the case of a governor, is very helpful for him.
I think that's 100% right. Also, what's helpful to Carl Dean's campaign is the success of the Predators.
Correct.
Well, you know, he was mayor and they won, and
they were going to leave.
So if Nashville's a hockey So Nashville's a hockey town. Do we now have to, Carl Dean, have to prove that Tennessee might be a hockey state? Really? That far?
Well, you know, my hockey stick versus your tractor. That'd be an interesting fight.
Let's talk just for a few minutes about the U.S. Senate race. It's also Bob Corker would appear as an incumbent, very prominent for his work in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee as chairman. Would be have a pretty easy race. But why isn't he announcing, Bill?
Well, why does he need to? I mean, he's got an easy race. He also is dangling out there, and he's gone back and forth about the governorship, but there's still people who think, well, Bob might get in and run for governor.
You think that's still a possibility, still on the consideration
Every
list?
day I think it's less and less of a possibility, because we've watched him over his terms, and he has grown to love and do very well in the U.S. Senate. It didn't start out. It started out kind of rough.
The other way, yeah. He was not that way at all.
He clicked. And I think that is a big consideration, and Tennessee would benefit by him staying there, I believe, obviously.
Larry,
there's
some difference of opinion in the polling. So there's a poll from Vanderbilt that shows Senator Corker with very high approval ratings among Tennessee voters, but there's one from the Tennessee Star and some other places that indicate that among Republican voters, he's got some pretty low numbers. But if that's true, why isn't somebody of prominence on the Republican side jumping in the race against it?
It seems to me, if I'm Randy Boyd, if I'm Bill Lee, Diane Black, surely I've run some polls. And if I'm running governor's polls, I'm going to throw in the Senate, throw in Corker's name as well. If Corker was in serious trouble with the Republicans, I think one of them would have thought, yeah, the governor's race is awfully crowded. I'm better off running one-on-one against
trying to push
Corker.
Mark Green, and Mark Green's not going to get back into that race and run, even though he says he wants to go to Washington of some nature.
I think he better get a job from Trump.
Larry Woods is our guest today, political analyst, along with Bill Phillips on the Republican side. We're talking Tennessee politics, what's going to happen for the rest of 2017, looking into 2018 with all the elections coming up, and what's going on nationally, which we'll turn to in our third block. Get back with us on Inside Politics right after this break.